Hey, Andy.
Hey, Andrew. How are you?
You know what really browns my nanners?
What's that?
Pipe majors that suck.
As much as Josh's grips?
As much as Josh's grip.
I was waiting for my opening
He
there.
forgot the joke. He's staring at me.
No,
like,
it's perfect.
Like, what's
Perfectly
going on?
wonderful. Yeah. Why, hello everyone, and welcome to episode 43 of the Chanarant podcast. My name is Josh. With me, as always, although currently in New York, is my bearded co-host Andy.
That's me.
And today, our special guest, back by incredibly unpopular demand, Andrew Douglas of the Piper's Dojo.
What's up, everybody?
Good to have you back.
Wow, even his intro is boring.
Yeah, even just wanted to. So yeah, today's topic is actually a bit of a cross promotion. Is that what we want to call it? It's not really a collaboration because you just wrote these, and we're just giving you free publicity essentially because we got nothing else planned this evening.
That's what you guys do, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
We're going to take advantage of his writing something.
yeah, or getting someone else to at least. And yeah, so
It's
today's
it's what boring people have to do to like, get the word out. You know?
So yes, today's topic is courtesy of Andrew Douglas and the Piper's Dojo. 10 clues your pipe major sucks. I mean, I don't know that I need 10 clues. I already know my pipe major sucks.
It's interesting. I had the idea for this article, it'd be interesting because we definitely get a lot of feedback about this, from people. Oh my God, what you're saying, Andrew, usually. Sometimes Fusco, though. He's on there. Sometimes he says good stuff, but they're like, what you're saying makes so much sense. But, our band does it like this. And the common denominator seems to be that bands aren't being run very well and that, pipe majors are kind of, in many cases, certainly not all cases, right? And we'll probably get into that, how you can't just blacklist everybody. Obviously. And
Well, we do.
And in some cases, right? In
What do you
some
think
cases,
this is, a Chanarant podcast?
But so anyway, I was like, okay, cool. So we have our little private group at Dojo U. The premium members are in there, and I was like, I want to write this article, 10 clues your pipe major sucks. And there's like 200 people in this group. Like our public page, we have like 14,000 followers or something. And this one post in this tiny little group got more comments than anything we've ever put out on any channel.
You may have struck a nerve.
People just
there.
went. Yeah, and so like the article was ultimately forged by the biggest, most painful themes from all of our membership, basically, venting about shitty aspects of their pipe majors, to the point where Bruce Gandy was on there like, guys, you should chill this out.
This is going the wrong
This
way.
is going the wrong direction.
the pitchforks and torches came out, and
Yeah.
it was all
So
over.
we definitely struck a nerve. So and then Fusco was like, we absolutely have to talk about this stuff on the show. And I feel like your previous 42 episodes have really been leading up to this moment.
Leading up to this what will become the magnum opus of the Chanarant podcast. We always thought it was going to be third
Dude,
bag
you were on
opus.
episode 43.
You're that guy from episode 43.
Yeah.
Oh, crazy, man. That's fantastic. I can't wait to get into this. Before we do, I just want to remind the listeners they can review the show on iTunes, Podbean, Google Podcasts, Fusco's Grinder page, and also by carrier pigeon to Piper's Dojo in New York. If you just you can look up that address online. Send the pigeons there with your complaints. You can send us emails and voicemails to be played on the show to chanarant@gmail.com. And you can like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Or if you're Australian, Snapchat. You can check out the Chanarant store at chanarant.com. And please invite and share with your friends. Gentlemen, I believe we got some emails on this, Fusco.
Yeah, it was completely... We didn't ask for emails about this. It's just coincidence that people wrote in bitching about their pipe majors in the last 2 weeks. So
At the perfectly correct time.
So yeah, it's wild. One of them actually inspired one of our listeners to buy a shirt, which is awesome. So if a pipe major sucks bad enough for somebody to buy a shirt with my face on it, then we know we're doing something right.
Yeah, I'm glad that that's become a way for you to punish the pipe band establishment is by wearing Chanarant merch.
That's exactly what she says too, isn't it?
It's like, I'll show them. I'm gonna wear I'm gonna wear this Chanarant shirt, and they probably will dislike it slightly.
So I'm going to leave this very, very vague as best I can.
We're gonna have to. We're gonna have to with both of these for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So somebody wrote to me saying, "Thought I'd just explain why my pipe major is a dick." And
Strong. right off the bat.
right into it. Like, okay. He spends most of practice standing in the middle of the circle playing his own tunes, constantly insinuates that our level of playing is too boring for him. He does not go over tunes with us and teaches us by making us watch his fingers. No sheet music on weekly beginner development days. There is no tempo or timing, just whatever he feels like, and and then he will speed things up halfway through a tune. He plays at this, I don't want to say the name of it, but some ceremony, and will get us to negatively critique the playing of other players doing the ceremony on other nights. And if we critique him, some other members of the band who don't think he's a dick will verbally chastise you. There are many other strange things he does which effectively qualifies him for the title. So, and then she gets too specific after that, so I'm going to leave the rest of that one alone. But so yeah, it's brilliant. You have any thoughts on what she's saying here?
This pipe major sounds like a real shitbag. He really does.
And I know this type well. I've seen this type of person.
It's classic, right? And I mean, the thing that comes to my mind right away, probably causing a slight decrease in my membership, is like, leave that band immediately.
Well, read the second part. She says something about, I'm just spending time here until I can go back to this other band. I need to get some experience marching first, and these guys march a lot. So
pipe band purgatory.
Oh my God. Yeah. No, this is great. And it's weird. This email is signed from Carl. Huh.
Yeah. Crazy.
Is he talking about you?
Yeah, he must have talking about
No. I mean, some things sound a little bit like me. I'm not going to lie. There's a pretty big disclaimer in the article that I'm not trying to claim I've been the best pipe major.
Sure.
Yeah.
We've all made mistakes, but yeah. So that was a great one I got this last week, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. Well,
So-
that's fantastic. Yeah, complete coincidence that someone decided to rant about their pipe major to the email right before we do the pipe majors episode,
Right.
which I'm
it's
sure won't be
weird,
the
but
first or the last pipe majors episode.
No, we're bound to get a lot of them after this, I would imagine.
So we did get another email. This is I don't know. This isn't to me so as much of a pipe major specific thing as it seems to be kind of like a general like leadership type thing. But I'm gonna have to try to like edit it I'm gonna have to edit it as I go to not have this person get in trouble, or maybe they'll get in trouble anyway. Who cares? Onward and in for a penny, in for a pound. That's what I say. If you're gonna send us a fucking email and not explicitly say in your email, don't read this. So our band executive
She never says.
has decided to hold a Robbie Burns event. They held one last year. No one in the band was really into it, and the band took let's just say, a significant financial hit. One of the main expenses is that they hired a band to play, which is ridiculous because no one cared about having a band except for one of the exec members who made it clear they would like to sleep with one or all members of the band that has been hired. This event is also supposed to be a fundraiser, but not for us, for a children's charity that's tangentially associated with the band. Last year, no one signed up to bring potluck items to the dinner because no one wanted to do the event in the first place. So this year, the board is having it catered. Therefore, band members are going to be charged something like $30 to attend an event they've already demonstrated they aren't interested in. They're also expected to maybe play, but not much since we've hired a, quote, real band, provide items for the silent auction, help with setup, and sell a quota of 2 tickets each on top of the one they're buying for themselves. Anyways, I made these points to the pipe major. Why is this a band event when it's not raising funds and we're not performing? How is it a fundraiser? We're expecting a loss. And his response was that it was going to go great this year, and if someone had a problem with the way things were run, they didn't have to attend the event. So that's my plan. I'm just going to take a gig the night of the band dinner and use that as my excuse not to go. I hate to come across as a sulky naysayer, but I've tried offering my input as someone who's been a part of pipe bands for 8 years, and this band specifically for over 2, and now part of the exec. So now I think my best move is to cut my losses with this event and hope the rest of the exec doesn't hold it against me. It's just frustrating, you want to invest in something and build something great, but then there will be people that do totally irrational things. It probably doesn't help that I want everything to operate logically and efficiently. Anyway, thanks for letting me rant. I'll probably finish my third glass of wine and turn in. Keep up the good work.
And I just want to reference one other thing because the email she sent it in 2 emails, and this is the person who, when she was so pissed at her pipe major, went out and bought a shirt at 1:30 in the morning from us just to say fuck you to the pipe major. So that's always we appreciate that.
There's definitely like a theme of passive aggression going on in this. She's buying a shirt at 1:30 a.m. just to piss off her pipe major, and then there's also like I'm just gonna take a gig and skip the band gig. Screw my band. I don't know. That sounds to me like there's red flags going off there. Like maybe there's some problems with followership in addition to problems with leadership.
Well, I tell you what, one thing it's definitely crossed my mind about this. As a pipe major, I'm sure you'll feel this way. Like the next thing we should do after this is 10 reasons you're a shitty band member.
10 reasons you're
absolutely.
a shitty band member, not just leadership. Like here's signs that you're a shitty follower.
Yeah, exactly. Because maybe this guy's a dick. I don't know, but maybe he's trying to get something done. I don't know. I don't know the whole story.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. Sometimes people are just naysayers.
I mean, it's kind of bad. It's kind of bad when she's like some stupid children's charity, not even our own band. Who is this asshole raising money for children? Unbelievable.
Granted, I kind of get her on that. I that charity thing doesn't work on me. People try to use it to get us to do shit all the time, and I'm like, no.
I was about to say those little kids have their whole lives to raise money.
Yeah, it's like, can those kids play a scale with no crossing noises? Because if not, screw them.
Unless those little fuckers are going to join the band, I'm not contributing to their charity.
Where's my T-shirt?
Little Timmy and little Abigail want to pick up some fucking pipes and drums. Then we'll talk about treating your leukemia.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Healthcare costs just went up.
Oh. Well, there goes an increase on the Chanaran employee insurance premium.
Oh shit.
So
we have a special discounted leukemia rate at the dojo.
That's because there's so much asbestos in the walls. You have the
You're not kidding. If you saw
mesothelioma coverage. Yeah.
Yeah, this building is so old, it wouldn't surprise me in the least.
What you think the Piper's Dojo water air pressure gauge? You think that's not made with carcinogens? Come on now.
I mean, we literally put Windex in the tube, so
you're breathing those chemicals.
Yeah, definitely. Got some.
Keeps your pipes minty fresh.
Probably not a bad idea.
Well, that's actually there's several reasons it's good. Number one is we learned the hard way that food coloring stains. Oh, yeah. So we used to rent a little space in a church, and we have these tube water manometers, right? And we used to fill them with red food coloring, so you could see the water really clearly. Well, of course, one day, like the water level's down or whatever, and somebody hooks into the thing, blows up, and like bright red liquid shoots up, and basically like blood stains, blood stains the entire it's like the nursery section of the church, right, that we were using. So there's like blood all over the nursery at the church. So Windex doesn't stain, and you can see it clearly, and it doesn't grow mold. So that's why we use at least several parts Windex in the manometers. Yeah. How do we end up on that?
I have no idea.
It doesn't matter.
But needless to say, we no longer cohabitate with the Episcopalians.
And look on the bright side.
Quick after that?
We don't have to worry about that tangent because Fusco will edit it out later. Okay, so I feel like our emails kind of, in a soft way, lead us into all the reasons that your pipe major sucks, or all the clues that your pipe major sucks. Now, Mr. Douglas, my understanding is you have some disclaimers that go before this.
Yeah, there's several. First thing is, I think we're going to try to release the article on roughly the same day as the podcast. So if you're out there and you find the article, it was actually written by one of our best students here at the dojo, Dr. John Holcomb. So shout out to him for writing the article. It's like much too grammatically correct and like well thought out to be something I actually wrote. So thanks to him for that. And like it's interesting. We already sort of talked about it, right? Like one of the big disclaimers that Mark Dubois, a great piper here from New York, pointed out on the internal forum when we were like pipe major bashing is like just be careful that you're not actually the asshole, right? Like there's a lot of shitty band members out there, like Fusco was talking about.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
You know, my pipe major refuses to accept any feedback. It's like, well, if you're giving the pipe major feedback in the middle of a practice when he or she is like trying to get something done, like that makes you the dick,
Right,
not the pipe major.
Right.
And nobody's ever going to be perfect, I don't think. But you can't be the pot calling the kettle black.
Sure.
And I think there might be more of that than. There might be more crappy band members out there than there are bad pipe majors.
Well, I would
Actually,
say
statistically,
yeah,
probably.
statistically, that's the only way it can be. Like the chances are, it's kind of like the it's almost like the old saying. If you walk down the street and you meet someone that's an asshole, then you met an asshole. If every person you interact with is an asshole, then you're the fucking asshole.
Then you're the
So if you're going to band, and you're like, well, my pipe major's an asshole, but the drum sergeant's kind of an asshole too, and so are my other band members, and so is the pipe sergeant. Well, you might be the asshole in this situation, and everyone else is just doing their fucking job.
Absolutely, and I think that's really important. And as much as this article was kind of therapeutic to put together and to think about and stuff like that.
Plus, who doesn't like
It's
good
definitely
clickbait?
well, I mean, the title is strictly for clickbait. I mean, that's basically what's interesting and unusual is that I'm not really trying to sell anything with this article.
Yeah.
So it's just an article that we put together.
But it'll drive. Either way, it's eyes to your.
Yeah.
Wait, are you
maybe,
saying that Chanarant
potentially.
listeners that go to dojouniversity.com/Chanarant don't get 10% off their premium membership by listening to this episode?
Shit, man, that's a good idea. Yeah, let's do that.
Done.
Done.
Have the science department begin on this immediately.
Quick, let me message Carl.
Yeah, let's say
we need a code called
Hey,
Generate.
hey, Fusco, just take notes. That's how you sell sponsorships, bro. On
There it
air, live. So yeah, the idea is that it's very likely that there's just as many bad band followers as bad band pipe majors. And I would say I've read the article. I've read the first. Well, I don't know if this is the one that's actually going to get published, but I've read what I'm assuming was one of the first drafts. And I would say you guys were pretty nice in here.
Yeah, well, you know how it is, right? Like, I'm Mr. Boring, right? I have all sorts of really provocative thoughts, but then I have to tone them down, and so I don't lose half of my membership overnight by coming on a radical. What are you, right wing or left wing podcast?
I don't know. I think
But
I think we just have two devil wings, and that's all.
Yeah, exactly. Like a devil on each shoulder.
Exactly.
But yeah, so it came out a little bit diplomatic or something,
Yeah.
which is okay. And I think it's mainly meant to be food for thought, and you have to be careful, right? Like I think one of the things, I don't know if it's technically in the article, but one of the disclaimers could be, I think a lot of people are really, really, really crappy pipe majors, even though they're pretty good people.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like they're good people and they honestly think they're doing their best,
I'm sure that's probably more.
even though they're hopelessly inadequate and doing a huge disservice to piping by death gripping their position as pipe major. They're actually really good people.
Yeah.
Jesus, Andrew, take it easy. He's right there.
I know. I'm trying to I'm kind of looking at him as I say a lot of this stuff, and
I'm glad he's in the
I'm like,
room with
what?
you.
he's not getting it. He's not getting it.
So okay, I want to get into this. Quick background: Andrew Douglas, you have been the pipe major of several bands, correct?
Yeah. So I was my first pipe major experience was, I mean, it was actually much better than a parade band, but that's mostly what the band did. It was actually probably like solid grade 4 band when I was pipe major of the St. Andrews College Pipes and Drums back in the day, and definitely. I was definitely guilty of some of the things on our list when I was 16 years old, like being a pipe major of the band. But yeah, and then I've been pipe major in other scenarios, and then most importantly on the other end of the spectrum, I was pipe major of the Orrin Moore pipe band for 6 or 7 years, I think, there, starting in 2008.
I think
Go ahead,
you bring up a really good point that for the most part, people who are what would be considered a good pipe major now aren't necessarily people who have never done these things. It's probably people that have done these things and realize that's not the way to do it, and then change their behavior.
Absolutely, and I think that's maybe one of the underlying messages, right? I know that this word is like a dangerous word, but being humble or not overly arrogant, right, is like an important element of it. But at the same time, like, how do you become a pipe major without having a lot of confidence in your abilities? Certainly a good pipe major has to be extremely confident. So it's a really delicate balance.
All right, and then so for background on our second member of this panel, Mr. Andy Fuco, currently the pipe major of a grade 4 service band with no drums.
Correct.
Ouch.
Josh, that's your band, right?
With one drum. Me.
with one drum.
That's me.
known for stupid YouTube videos, but also poorly playing at high school football games.
You got a couple of YouTube videos I'm a big fan of.
The ones you're in?
No comment.
And then just to round out the panel, you have me, who was for one season the pipe major of the grade
Jesus Christ,
5.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go.
The undefeated grade 5 band that shall not be named.
And acting pipe major at said football game.
And acting pipe major at said disastrous gig of a football game. Luckily, it was only incredibly broadly televised.
Oh, yeah. And luckily they prepaid the bill, so they couldn't take it back.
Yep.
It's a tough thing, right? Like, it's a tough thing to be a pipe major because, like, you really can't turn it off. I think that's, and I think both of you guys are in touch with what that means.
I very much know what you mean by that, yeah.
Like you can't take a hiatus. It's like that commercial where the parent says to the 2-year-old, like, I gotta take a sick day, bro. 2-year-old's like, I don't know what that means. And your pipe band is much like a 2-year-old, I think, in many.
Oh, in so many ways.
But yeah, you can't take a break, and like I can totally sympathize with. Yeah, they certainly right wheel like a 2-year-old. That's for sure. God damn. But where was I going with that?
Pipe band is like a 2-year-old. I have no idea.
But you can't take a hiatus, and I can sort of sympathize with a lot of pipe majors, good or bad, who are probably just totally overwhelmed by the whole process.
Sure.
Like, it's unbelievably difficult thing.
Yeah, because it also, for the most part, at least in the U.S., you're also essentially managing a nonprofit art organization. Most of us tend to be nonprofits for whatever reason. That's the way it ends up. So now you're doing a whole lot of stuff, at least in the beginning when you're starting a band or whatever, that you know nothing about probably. Like anything, like fundraising, legalities, managing people.
That's right.
It's all kinds of stuff. So you learn on the job very often. So, but yeah, for sure.
What do you think, Josh?
I think that's perfect.
Clue number 1?
I think that brings us into clue number 1. So you guys want to take turns on these, starting with you, Andrew Douglas?
Sure. Clue number 1, big fish syndrome. So long story short with this, where I'm going with this is I think that a lot of people become really comfortable. They find a small pond of pipers, probably pipers which they're better than or have more experience than, and they become really comfortable just being the big fish in the small pond that everybody looks up to. And it's the type of thing where, whoops, I kind of hit the mic there. I didn't really, but I kind of did. The comfortable, big fish, small pond, and then that makes it difficult for a band to progress, because if members of the band or the band itself progress beyond like the capabilities of that, big fish in the small pond, then a lot of issues tend to come up with ego and how to let go and how to let the band be successful?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have not witnessed this that I can think of in current memory, but I can definitely see, like, for the most part, in my experience with bands, there's always a decent sized range of ability and experience. It's very rare that the majority, in my experience, that the majority of people in the band are all kind of around the same level. Usually it's vastly different just across the spectrum.
Yeah.
And so if you're a pipe major, that is, and I bet another, I see that you have like the related clues that go with these. Like one of them is a poor pipe major with this issue will openly criticize pipers or drummers who leave the band, not for good reason, just because they've left the pond. I would say another clue that could kind of be involved with that is the idea of, I guess this actually does come up a little bit later, of progressing individual members and driving the teaching. If you're a pipe major that doesn't take instruction, for example, like you're not improving yourself, you're not really focusing on improving other people. If there's a person in the band that's better than you and you're the pipe major, what are you doing to kind of encourage that person to pursue either solo competition or maybe, on the off season going to play with a higher grade band?
Absolutely. And I think that comes up later in the clues too, that exact point. Like, so yeah, it's a difficult thing. I don't know.
Fusco?
Fusco, you're a big fish in a small pond. What do you think?
Wait, what are you trying to say here?
Welcome to Albany, bitch.
No, this says they want to be a big fish in a small pond, an unassuming small community of friendly bagpipers.
Well,
Yeah,
that's the key word.
That's a
mistake
little
there.
different.
Our situation is completely different. Especially Angel, who's very angry.
That guy's a dick.
Yeah.
You heard it here first, folks.
I'm just playing along. I haven't really spoken to him in a while.
Angel for
No, he's a dick. You're right.
Angel for Pipe Major 2019. I'm saying it now.
That's the way to go for sure.
Yeah.
There's Josh. You're starting to hit on something. I don't know if maybe it's moving along too fast into other clues or whatever, but you sort of reference the jealousy. There can be some jealousy amongst band members, towards pipe majors in situations like this. I've found, you could look at it from the other side of it, I suppose, where, does the pipe major, like you said, something about letting people go, like out to play other bands or whatever you said there. That can be an issue where people are very loyal to their own organization and then it causes some, jealousy issues or whatever, that sort of stuff. So, managing that situation, like how does the pipe major let people do that without hurting his own organization, I suppose?
Or hers. It's
Is
2018.
he
Let's
open
go.
enough? Well, yeah. Well, whatever.
Shame.
Does he let them out to do that sort of thing? I don't know if I've ever known anybody to be like this, but I don't know. Have you?
What? Big fish in a small pond?
Yeah, I don't know I can't think of a specific example where
I can think of a couple examples.
Okay.
I don't know. I can't say anything without it becoming like
Yeah, I can see.
obvious what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, sure.
Okay. So real quick, poll of our pipe major panel. Does anyone want to admit to having been guilty of of big fish syndrome?
No, I think of the things I'm guilty of, this isn't so much one of those things. Although, definitely in my Or and More days, definitely would be pissed off if people left our band to go to another grade 1 band.
Sure.
I mean, maybe, I think I would have been able to like handle it quasi-professionally, maybe. There might be a little
passive aggressive.
little shit talking here and there, but like in general, I think like how I outwardly handled it would be okay. Let's say maybe not overly egregious, but definitely super pissed off on the inside.
Yeah,
If somebody left our band for a different one, definitely guilty of that.
Yeah, I don't think this one applies to me really. I mean, like the things you talk about, like saying things like the audience won't notice. That's definitely not me. I've always been trying to get people to get better because I know it's going to help the band. So like those kind of things, that never really applied to me. I don't think.
Let's go on to clue 2.
Yeah, in this clue 2, I'm going to kick over to Mr. Foucault.
This is perfect because this one is exactly me. They know everything, but don't. Oh wait, no, this isn't me. Sorry.
It is you.
But don't sound good. Clue 2, they know everything, but don't sound good. So what do you mean by this one, Andrew?
No, the know-it-all pipe major. The pipe major that has an answer to everything, just to make sure they have an answer for everything, even if they don't really have an answer for everything. And like one of the indications that they don't actually have the answer to everything, even though that they seem to act like they do, is they don't actually sound good when they play.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious.
How many pipe majors out there are telling their constituents exactly how to do everything, but when they fire up, it's absolute mayhem?
Well, take any service band and you probably.
Oh my God. I mean, I can't speak to every service band, but so many bands.
I'm thinking of Arizona Fire Service Band in particular, but because Cahill runs them.
Yeah.
How many bands are like going to Scotland next year to compete, whose pipe majors can't tune their own drones, much less the drones of the group?
Yeah, that would be absolutely terrifying
I
to
know.
me if I was a player. If I was a player underneath a pipe major who would be like, okay, here's exactly everything you need to do. I'm going to go warm up real quick, and it just sounded bad. Like, well, wait a minute.
But that player wouldn't stick in that band, would they? Ever? Like
Hell
they would
no.
realize it pretty quick.
I mean, the only reason I stayed in the band with you is because you're switching to drum. I don't have to listen to you play pipes anymore.
But one of the things you're saying this is the old statement of we've always done it this way. That old saw, I guess. So yeah, that's a pretty big clue that your pipe major's an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, it's a common theme across a lot of these clues,
Yeah.
which is the idea that, you can get feedback or good ideas, and they're just going to be disregarded because the pipe major knows all the reasons that's dumb and why their way is good, even though the truth is they don't actually know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Just a brief thing that came to my mind is I remember vividly, and it's definitely true in Inverary as well.
Mm-hmm.
I remember vividly in SFU, though, like a young, super cocky, like quasi know-it-all kid when I started in SFU, and learning the art of checking my ego at the door. Like one of the big helpful features or helpful factors that allowed that process to happen very quickly was obviously Jack sounded like Jack every time he struck up his pipes. Sure. But the other person that was just undeniably amazing sounding every time he struck up his instrument was Terry Lee. Undoubtedly, yeah, Terry Lee always sounded amazing. I think he took a lot of pride in that. And where I was going with it is, like one of those things, right? Like one of those clues or indicators for any members out there who are thinking to themselves, I wonder where my pipe major stands on this continuum of sucky to not sucky. When your pipe major strikes up, do you think to yourself, damn, that sounds real nice?
Josh, you can answer. Go ahead.
No, it's actually funny because this makes me think about in the earlier years of the band that shall not be named when I had just joined. You and Eric had been there for a while, and like everyone thought they knew a little bit about something. You could get advice on especially when it came to like the pipes themselves. Every single piper in the band felt very qualified to offer you some advice. And knowing what I know now, nobody knew what the fuck they were talking about, like even remotely, compared to what we know now when it comes to like setting your pipe up, maintenance, tuning, performance, all that stuff.
Yep.
So that's what this reminds me of. It reminds me of when you could talk to 6 different people. I mean, this would have been 2003, 2004. You could talk to 6 different people in the West Coast piping scene, and you would get 6 different answers on something as simple as like setting up your instrument. Yeah. Whereas now, there's only one right way to do it. Like you're not going to get 6 answers.
Well, you're talking in the band now, in our band now.
Yeah, in our band now, like the people that occasionally associate themselves with the dojo, like that there's like a good way to do it. Just do it that way.
Well, that's true. You would assume, but there's still a lot of people out there that sort of resist
knowledge.
The obvious. Yeah. It's wild. I mean, and to be fair, like we learned all that thanks to Mr. Douglas here. I learned a lot of that from him and the SFU sort of tree of teaching, because I've learned from guys that played with SFU for lots of years.
And then I got to learn it from
So-
Andy for free, which was great.
Correct, you did. I spent lots of money learning that shit. But, and you don't have to. You can just become a member of the dojo for $30 a month.
I'm just sitting here.
PipersDojo.com/Channeret.
You guys are extremely grateful to me. I really appreciate that, but really, it's not necessary.
No, well, no, it's not even that we're like sucking your dick just for the sake of sucking your dick. It's that
No,
like
that
for
part
the
comes
way,
later.
yeah, that comes later. Like I know when I started to look at some of that stuff, I like literally I was like, oh, this just makes sense. This isn't hoodoo voodoo. This isn't fucking magic, mystical magic. Like it's just do this in this way, and look at that. The instrument's easy to play now. It's air efficient. My fucking drones are calibrated correctly. My pipe isn't trying to kill me every other time I play it.
There's a reason a lot of these people gravitate towards bagpiping, right? And I'm extremely not a fan of too many of these people unless they change their minds and decide they'd like to learn the instrument for real, right? There's a reason people gravitate to this because and I'm making a generalization metaphor thingamajig here, but like those people could not go play football, right? Because if they went and played football with the attitude that they already know everything, they get their ass kicked, like pounded into the ground, literally. Yeah. Because you can't be ignorant in something like football because you'll literally get your ass kicked or any actual quantitative, objective sport of any kind.
Sure.
Or even slightly more quantitative art forms like, you can't be that way as a photographer, right? Because you'll show your photographs to people and they'll say that shit, right? Yeah. But and so people gravitate, right? People ultimately, pipe majors and follower types, right? They all gravitate towards piping because it's way easier to fake it. And I think that's really too bad, right? It's way easier to fake that you know something. And I think hopefully that era is kind of drawing to a close to a degree. But this whole topic really gets to that underlying thing.
Why do you think that's drawing to a close?
Because
of the Chanarant podcast, duh.
Yeah, because of the Chanarant podcast and dojouniversity.com. But it's coming to a close because the availability of top-notch instruction is way more available now than it ever has been.
So they can't hide in the dark anymore, kind of thing?
Yeah, like people used to write letters to Donald McLeod asking him to send them cassette tapes of him teaching stuff.
Right. Yeah.
You used to write a letter to him personally, and he would like dub a cassette for you and send it over to you. Like that's how I'm generalizing. It's probably not actually true, but that's the way Jack Lee got a lot of his P-Rock knowledge when he was younger. He had like a personal pen pal relationship with Donald McLeod or something, or either that or people in the community did, and maybe they shared the tapes with each other or something. I don't know, but it's different now, right? Like now you can spend $15 a month on my website or any amount of money with anybody, right? Callum and Jack and for Christ's sake, you can pay Fusco to learn online on the internet. So it's a lot harder to be dumb and get away with it now.
That's true.
That's why I think and I think ultimately, in not too long, you'll just look like a fool if you're continuing to do some of this stuff. But in the meantime, we need to write articles like this to stir the pot.
That's
and
perfect.
Get people to single out the people. But it's pipe majors and followers too, right? But it's like total ignorance to basic facts. And I'm not saying I know how to express Susan McLeod better than you. I mean, I know how to express it better than Josh, but maybe not better than you.
maybe not better than
yeah, and certainly play a better damn grip. But no, but in the topic of grips, right? Like it's pretty cut and dry how to play one, right? So it's not, to me, I struggle to see how it's acceptable to not be able to play a good one, especially as a person who's leading and teaching a group, right?
Sure.
Like it's not that hard. It takes practice. It requires a lot of commitment to master it, but that's the name of the game, right?
Well, if you were a fly on the wall 15 years ago in Las Vegas, you would have seen that there were opinions on how to do things of that nature.
Yeah.
There was lots of opinions on the way to do it.
A lot of differing opinions.
Very differing opinions. Yeah. So I guess I understand back then why people struggled so much because nobody really knew, or at least it was really hard to get to the source of what the truth was.
I think the issue is like for me, I don't want anyone to misinterpret what I'm saying. Style is really, really important, but it's the last 5%. Right? It's what takes you from being like the same as everybody in the 95th percentile of pipers. Style is what takes you into the 99th percentile. For sure. Super important. I'm super concerned with style in my own playing.
Sure.
Provided my fundamentals are going well enough to not want to shoot myself and or go work on those. But I think a lot of the world, a lot of the pipe band, like band halls, they have it flipped, right? 95% of the stuff they're talking about is all style related. It's all icing on the cake, where it needs to be the other way around, right? Anyway, I'm starting to get ultra boring. Like I've taken it to a new level.
This is perfect.
Sorry,
This
we're
is,
getting a lot of hate mail on this one.
this is exactly what the fans needed after Dirtbag Olympics Part 3.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, I must have missed on that.
We gotta bring him down again before we bring him back up. It's an entertaining show.
Anyway, right? Good enough hate mail, and I'll do another episode of the Passive Aggressive podcast.
Oh, we were bound to get it on this one for sure.
Sorry. I'm just sorry.
So, I get to talk about Clue 3. I hate those guys. And this is essentially a poor pipe major hates bands that are better than your band, whether it's performance, competing. He's critical of their scores, their uniforms, their marching, whatever. If they win prizes, it's because of some shameful behavior, not because they're actually just spanking you musically. All score sheets and other feedback meant to be constructive are viewed as stupid. The pipe major never concedes, out loud at least, that the other band's musical qualities are what make them clearly better, and Andrew Douglas is gay.
See, I did something funny there, but the listeners will never pick up on
They'll
that.
never pick up on that. So
And I'm not going to try to explain it because you can't try to explain those things.
you know what? Actually, did we go around before we talk about? Did we go around Clue 2? And is anybody guilty of knowing everything but not sounding good?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I'm gonna say
maybe in the early days.
yeah. I'm gonna say like early on, hotshot young Piper Josh. I guarantee I was just probably spouting shit that I knew nothing about. I wasn't a pipe major at the time, but yeah, like I guarantee that I was just like, and granted, it was probably because I heard it somewhere else, but still. Yeah, I'll take some. So Clue 3, I hate those guys. Anybody want to claim they're guilty of this?
Definitely.
I've always hated bands that are better than my band.
I'm much better now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like, for example. I played in the top of grade 1 for probably 6 years with SFU, and now 3 years with Inverary, and I've been second like 6 times at the Worlds, always to Field Marshal Montgomery. Now, in my younger years, I definitely felt a certain resentment. I think just because I was young, I didn't put much thought into it. Also, now that I've been a pipe major as well, I think that's a big thing. And then nowadays, it's like, shit, you gotta recognize just how good that is. And it's really like, it sucks because you want to win. But once you get past that, it's just amazing how good they are. It really is. Okay, that's all I'm going to give up, though.
I would say.
Are you saying you hate field marshals? Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I used to definitely.
You heard it here first,
'cause
folks.
In the SFU days, I was definitely guilty of like feeling genuine resentment towards shots and FM, but only because I didn't think about it enough. I was just concerned with how good I thought we were.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And I wasn't really giving credit to how good those bands were. It's like I don't know.
Well, I've definitely hated other bands more from a rivalry standpoint than like and kind of how they would act, or it wasn't so much that they were good that bothered me because there was bands at our level that I also thought were good that I got along with, but if they were kind of douchey, like I've had enemies over the years that you just don't like in just because of the way they are or the connections they have or whatever it is. But
You've stopped making new enemies though. That's good.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Ever since Chantarant started, You know, we find we're
to
burying
think
the
I'm sure.
hatchet with more people. By that I mean
Yeah,
I
but
just had
like-
to change my address a couple times.
I believe that.
I would say
I've definitely gone down the road of like if they win prizes, it's only because of some shameful behavior, like their band was the judges.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, that stuff pisses me off, but you know, whatever.
it's really easy to give into that kind of like thought process, right?
Yeah,
Definitely.
Especially when you're sort of new to the process and figuring out what's going on, that sort of thing.
I find that I can
Josh, you were going to say something?
I can definitely hate bands that are better or that beat whatever band I'm playing in. I have a hard time. I think like you said, it's more of a rivalry thing because like I can hate your band and still like most of the people in the band.
For sure.
Like even like immediately after that band kicks my ass, I'm still gonna go to the beer tent and be like, "You fucking assholes, good job, I guess." Fucking assholes. Like, like what are you gonna do? Like at the end of the day, you still got beat, bro.
True. I mean, yeah. What are you going to do?
There's no way to rewrite it. There's
I
no
mean,
way to
I don't know,
rewrite
Andrew.
it.
You guys were shamefully destroyed at the Worlds this year. What was that like for you? Does that make you hate the other band?
That was a loaded question. Yeah, I mean, like, so this was the second place I've gotten personally at the Worlds. Yeah, man, it's tough to swallow every time, but and it definitely hurts. There's no doubt about it. And there's no way on the rare occasions Richard has gotten beat. There's no way he's like, oh, well, maybe next year. There's no way that's his reaction.
No, I'm sure there's not.
So like, so I think that's all. But I think that with maturity comes that kind of perspective, like, and sure enough, right? When I finally, it personally takes me a couple weeks before I'm ready to listen to the Worlds, with the one exception being last year when we won. I was like hot to trot listening to everything.
Yeah.
But after a loss, which is most of the time, it takes me a couple weeks. But then sure enough, you turn on Field Marshal and it's like, wow,
Yeah.
shit.
That was good.
They nailed it.
Interesting clue.
Next
3.
one.
So clue 4. This is back to you, Douglas.
Clue 4, back to me. A suffocating repertoire. A poor pipe major often has several characteristics in this category. Clue. So there's a bunch of clues with this one. They won't put tunes in the competition sets or general repertoire that they don't already know. Next clue. They put in tunes that are clearly beyond the reach of many of the pipers in the group. And there's more text in the article that people are capable of reading, I hope. Maybe not, though.
Not
That
our
could be
listeners.
a good portion of your literature. Yeah. Just kind of the pipe major only being willing to play from their wheelhouse and not, being willing to show any sort of vulnerability with that. What do you think? I'm definitely guilty of this a little bit as far as, if I'm going to be a pipe major of a band, I'm usually heavily involved in picking out the tunes. And admittedly, like, I'm only drawing from my own arsenal of tunes that I've played before, generally speaking. It's fairly rare that, the band played tunes I wasn't already pretty familiar with, which I don't think has to be a bad thing, but it really can be.
Well, I guess it depends on how much you know. Because if you have a large repertoire,
Right.
then it could help. But I don't think this is me so much.
You don't know enough tunes
I don't know
to have
enough
a
'cause-
whole repertoire.
Yeah, no, not like I would pick stuff that I've heard that might go well together. So, and I don't know. Do you think how advantageous is it to let people in on the process of picking tunes for the band?
It depends.
Like, I don't know. Like generally, I think people. Well, we've had this experience. Josh will probably speak about it, but where people will pick stuff that's way too hard for them, and I've learned that the hard way a long time ago. That like this isn't reasonable, and we need to do simpler stuff. But of course, people don't want to do the simpler stuff. There's that, especially at grade 4 level, you're all over the place with ability. So that's
Simpler stuff's boring, right?
generally, or they think it is.
That's right.
If they're not really, they're not thinking of it like, well, I could use this simple tune to improve my D doubling that shows up across Green Hills or whatever it is, or I can always work to improve my tone as I'm playing. I don't think people think like that when they're first getting into tunes. They just want to play everything they can get their hands on, and the cooler it sounds, the better. But then you get yourself into trouble. So maybe in a way, like you could look at it as suffocating, where I kind of force people to play stuff that's simpler, that they don't want to do, but it's like, well, you can't play that hornpipe yet. Like,
Yeah.
it's going to sound like crap, I promise you.
Well, yeah, especially when you get into the situation where like people are struggling with the simpler stuff already, and it's kind of like, okay, like you're getting bored on this repertoire that has been the same for a while, but you still haven't mastered it. So are you not mastering it because you're too bored with it, or are you not capable of mastering it? Like, I guess people think that if they just wait long enough, maybe those tunes will go away and they'll get something new and more interesting to work on. But it's like, it'll go away a lot quicker if you just master it.
I think people are definitely, they want to play tunes that are harder before they can play tunes that are easier well, because it's hard work to play tunes that are easy really well. It's kind of interesting. I think a successful band figures out how to make the simple tunes interesting.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely true. Or challenging or invigorating.
How would one do that? Any thoughts?
I mean, in Or and More, we just, we focused on technique in a really intense way that, for the people who survived in the group,
Yeah.
they found that really interesting. Just how good can we make this material? Granted, it was a grade 1 band, so the material we're playing isn't that uninteresting
Right. Yeah.
at that level either.
Plus, you're dealing with, if people have gotten to that level, they probably have a different mindset from the people at the lower levels.
You'd
probably.
be surprised, probably.
Really?
Fusco, but yeah, absolutely. And then, at the lower levels, I mean, I'm sure a guy like F.U. Joe Brady would have a lot of perspective there too, because they do that really well.
Yeah.
Like people are engaged in the process of, getting better in a way that's sort of comprehensive. Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
No, I feel like we've definitely tried that. We've had times in our band where we tried to get more engagement by letting people speak up on that process of like, hey, like what sets do we potentially want to add? What tunes we potentially want to drop? Like where give some level of input. And the funny thing is we probably do it for the wrong reason. In my mind, the reason to do that is because then people don't have any excuse when they seem uninterested by the repertoire. Like, it's like, well, you had a chance to speak up about this. You had a say in this. Like, you don't get that excuse now. Okay, so this has actually turned out perfectly because Fusco, you're up next with Clue 5, and this is one of your favorites.
I love this one. Clue 5. Blah, blah, blah.
You're not
Clue
even
5.
drinking.
Oh, my brain is barely working though. Clue 5, disrespecting your time. Poorly managing time. This one's fairly self-explanatory, but so a pipe major who tends to get things going late or isn't particularly efficient at practice. Maybe there's a lot of time wasting things, get distracted, that kind of stuff, whatever. But that's the general idea of here. I am an efficiency nut, so this doesn't apply to me so much.
Doesn't apply to me at all.
Yeah, no, I'm like I've seen your list, like you write shit down to the like what you're gonna do. Like I've seen your backwards list to prepare for a competition. Like at minus 20 minutes, we are here.
Oh, sometimes. I'm definitely guilty of running the occasional inefficient practice. That's definitely
It
happened.
happens now again, sure.
But I'm a huge like if you're late, like I take it really personally when people are late.
Yeah, I do too. This almost makes me think more. This is a great one for a band member list when we do that eventually.
Well, yeah, I think this is a
people are
great one that works both ways, right? Like it's easy for a pipe major to disrespect the time of the band members, but I will say my experience has very much been the latter, or the opposite of that. It's very much been usually the band members disrespecting the time of the instructor or the pipe major.
Yeah, I've had experiences both ways for sure.
I bet you have, you dirty boy.
But it's interesting the way you word it here about being so lax with latecomer. How do you say here? Being so lax, the latecomers are rewarded, while those on time are punished.
That's definitely an important point.
Guess, yeah, I guess you're breeding that into people, like they get used to that, and then just snowballs and gets worse, and
Right.
So, but then again, some people, no matter what you do, are going to be late. Like I don't. I've actually done this recently where I set a time a half hour ahead, knowing that this one person who was always late to everything, because I needed to make sure that didn't happen. So I fake set the time, and then told other people that that's not the real time, but I put it out to everybody. So you have to do stuff like that sometimes. It's super annoying, but because now you're managing each individual person's ability to get somewhere, and it's really difficult. But at least from a practice standpoint, like I imagine some pipe majors are just like all over the place when they're playing through tunes. Like there seems to be no rhyme or reason for the way they're going through their practice, sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Or they don't have anything specific that they want to be accomplished. I think that could be a challenging thing.
I would say another thing about like the latecomers being rewarded isn't just like them being rewarded because there's like not a punishment for being late, but it punishes the people who are already there because it disrupts the flow of practice immediately. Like how often do you have it where everybody's circled up, you're ready to start working, and then someone comes flying in, throwing their stuff together, and now you got to take time to get them even remotely on page with everybody else just to start playing.
Absolutely, it's a killer, and people don't think about it until it's too late. Like they're running late or they're being lax about it, and then suddenly you've ruined you've ruined it for the group potentially.
Yeah,
and then the other thing is that I don't remember what the other thing is. I lost my train of thought.
I would say there's a right way to be late too, though. Like, because sometimes there's shit that's just outside of your control, and you can't help it. But there's a right way to be late. Whereas if you're late, you try to make as minimal of an entrance or impact as humanly possible. Like, you go into a side room, you put your shit together, you warm it up slightly until it's close, you go in quietly into the circle, and then join in. Correct. Not like, oh my goodness, hey everybody, I'm here. Sorry, I'm late. I just got stuck behind this bus. I'm going to put my stuff down real quick, and then I'll take it out, and then I will put it together, and then I will join you in song.
Does anybody have any seasoning?
Okay, Angel.
Instead of just being like, oh, that person was late, and they weren't here, and now all of a sudden they're just here, and I don't know when the change happened. Like you want to ninja your way in if you're late.
Yeah, don't be a dick.
Exactly.
Clue 6, cutting down talent at the ankles.
Or in this case, the shaft.
A poor pipe major often tends to dampen down or criticize pipers in the band who are actually better and or more talented. So they resent high aptitude. Sometimes even like high aptitude, maybe they're not even that great yet, but they have a lot of talent. And certain types of leaders are not gonna they're gonna feel threatened by that.
You're telling me.
The pipe major doesn't necessarily need to be the best piper. This is kind of a side note. Doesn't necessarily need to be the best piper, but knowing that and skillfully using and developing the talents of others is the hallmark of a good leader. Thoughts?
Well, okay, so I definitely have experience with this one. And it relates back to one of the earlier clues. I think it was number one or number two, but. So sometimes there's been people in the bands who are better than me, and I would generally try not to let it affect anything other than, like, those people are also, well, again, this was the time when everybody was very vocal, and while I appreciate ideas as a pipe major, I guess maybe this is where Mark was coming in a little bit, where there's a time and a place for it.
That's right.
And very often better players want everybody to know they're better players, so they will pick the most inopportune times to say these things or to make suggestions that are completely unreasonable for the skills of the band or the ability of the band, So I've definitely had, I look at it from a different perspective, but it is kind of this, where it's like, all right, here comes this good player. You don't want to lose them, but I also don't really want to listen to them because they may not have necessarily management experience, if you will. They just know, like, oh, it'd be cool to play this tune. Like, we've dealt with this so many times. Like, yeah, it would be cool, but nobody can. I know that nobody's going to be able to pull this off. Maybe 3 of us out of 10 or whatever it is. So this is a bad idea. And then they end up infecting everybody else with these terrible ideas. And everybody gets all excited. Oh, we could do that. And then what's the reality? Like, you're still trying to manage reality here. So
That's where the humble factor comes in. You know, like you have to check like at least the most abrasive parts of your ego at the door.
For sure.
And you have to be willing to do what's best for the team, even if that means you have to like be a leader instead of a follower and actually take some responsibility.
Yeah.
What do you think, Josh?
You know, as a person who's just never really been given my chance to shine in the band that shall not be named, you know, just constantly getting torn down by the establishment, man. I can, I can definitely see how this could make a bad pipe major. Also, that being said, most people aren't as good as they think they are, so it's a lot easier to just be realistic and operate, you know, for the good of the band.
Well, I guess that's where you got to determine how good is the pipe major or bad are they, and are they making decisions for the good of the band, and each person's got to figure that out.
I would say
hopefully they know that.
I would say in my experience, I've encountered this in a different way where it wasn't necessarily people that were better, like that showed more aptitude, that I worried about not giving, you know, attention to or not like fostering that enthusiasm. You get people who are working hard, even if they're just working hard to be at the middle. That I feel like that kind of work, you want to kind of make sure every now and then you take the time to reward, even if it's like a simple solo at a band gig, you know, like a fucking Amazing Grace solo that everybody can play anyway. Like every now and then just put that person out there so that they can show off the work they've been doing and kind of feel like they get a little appreciation for it. They don't have to necessarily be like the best player in the band, and you need to respect that just so much as like just fostering that enthusiasm of like, hey, like you're moving along, you're not amazing yet, but I can see you're working at it. Let's give you something to reward you for that.
So it's kind of like instead of cutting talent down at the ankles, you're kind of like pulling the pants up for young people whose pants are around their ankles.
Or in our case, letting your kilt down because it's quicker than pulling your pants up.
Right, exactly.
And if you're in a hurry,
the pipe major should definitely be involved in that, like hiking it back up once it's
just pulling the kids'
once
pants
it's
up.
down.
Yeah. Fusco, you've pulled up a lot of little kids' pants.
Why don't you introduce the next clue?
Why don't you introduce the next clue?
Just let me do it. Oh no, that's not the right.
Man, you guys ever notice how nothing ever really changes? I'm not referring to Josh's lame jokes.
Like how every time
that's the clue.
How every time we have Andrew Douglas on, it's a boring show.
I guess we'll find out when the mail starts coming in.
You've really caused me to I'm really going to have to analyze
We've
this.
created a non-existent psychological problem in Andrew Douglas where he's lost his he's lost his mojo somehow.
You can never say this out loud though. You realize, like, because they'll just eat you alive now that it's going to be out there that you were
now that I'm
sensitive.
Now that I'm sensitive.
now that people know there's a crack in the armor. Oh my goodness.
My psychologist and I have already been working through this, and like this is supposed to help, and it really hasn't.
This is supposed to help you with your anxiety.
I can't wait to see Fast Eddie's voicemail to response to Andrew Douglas being sensitive. It's gonna be great. Excuse me, hold on. Jeez. So anyway, that was actually clue 7. I wasn't just making a joke there. You ever notice how nothing ever really changes? A bad pipe major never really changes the playbook. They have a very small bag of tricks and they just stick to it. Like they're, I guess, essentially just not learning anything new or new ways to do things, right? I suppose.
So playbook never changes. It doesn't matter how many times something comes up on a score sheet. The approach is never really adjusted.
I think that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, though. Like a definite sign of a bad pipe major is a person who doesn't like seek to self-improve. Like if they're never changing the playbook, it's because they're probably not taking instruction. They're probably not. I mean, it doesn't even necessarily have to be like getting world-class instruction. Like you can just take an hour or two every now and then and like go on YouTube and see if you can find some cool shit that you haven't heard before that maybe you want to try. Just get out of the
pipe major perspective.
Get out of the box.
I would think from a pipe major perspective it would be more like going on YouTube and watching a video on the psychology of people or managing people or that kind of stuff. I mean, I mean, maybe depending on the level of the pipe major, I don't know. Maybe it's learning or not learning tunes, but like being exposed to tunes that they haven't heard before, whatever. I suppose. But
So I guess my question to that point, Fusca, would be, what do you expect to learn to make you a better pipe major by the countless hours you spend just watching porn online?
Well,
I've learned the great joy of self-satisfaction, and that keeps me relatively sane at pipe band practice on a regular basis. If I used to notice me running off to the bathroom or something, that's probably what I'm doing.
That's probably what you're doing,
I
yeah.
come back all calm and
See, I feel like this sets us up potentially. I know we're only partway through this article, but this sets us up for the next Piper's Dojo article collaboration. 5 things about your porn addiction that make you better at bagpipes.
interesting.
5 things you can learn from porn.
I mean,
could think of at least
you
4.
get plenty of grip work.
So what's your excuse?
Yeah.
then?
So what's your excuse?
Apparently, I'm just not quite at that level of porn consumption yet. I'm sorry, guys. This is on me, really.
Well, you're young yet. You'll get there.
Oh my God. One of the things I've learned from the Chanter Rant podcast is, when in doubt, you have to call Eric Evenhouse about this kind of stuff, because he's like the master of all things sexually extremely uncomfortable to talk about.
Oh my God! Apparently.
Oh my God.
He opened a wormhole into the most depraved shit that people send us.
I'm never going to be the same again. That was like the most scarring.
You don't even
podcast
want to
I've
see.
ever
You don't
listened
even want to see some of the fucking links people send us now. So okay, so back to clue number 7. Does anyone want to claim guilt on this? On never
No.
really changing the playbook?
If anything, as a pipe major in Or and More, I was 180 degrees the other direction. You know, if something was wrong, like, you could expect me to come to practice and like shatter your brain with some new tactic to solve the problem. Right.
Yeah, I can definitely say that not changing the playbook has never been a problem for me, because I've never owned or used a playbook. I've just been shooting from the hip this entire time. I think everyone probably has realized that by now.
Well, we know it for sure. Yeah, no, I don't think so. I'm always trying to learn to do stuff differently, and especially in the early years, I was always, and that's kind of how I came across the dojo, to be quite honest, looking for new ways or the right way to do things, because I didn't have any friggin' clue when I first took over. So.
Yeah. And I think just doing the same thing over and over again, like, look, one of the things that everybody does, right, is you sit down around the table and you play practice chanters, and then like you're like, okay, Johnny, now you play it once. Okay, cool. Now, all right, here you need to fix those things. Okay, but let's move on to Timmy next. Timmy, let's hear you. Cool. Well, Timmy, you just have to be more crisp with your grip. And then, okay, Andy, you go ahead and you play. Talk about boring. That even bores me. But that's like that would be an example of something that just you do that over and over and over again, and nothing ever really changes, right? There's no actual utility to that kind of thing, generally speaking. I remember one time, we got to practice, and on the way into practice, this is kind of a story that most people are going to hate. You don't like the sound of the X-Acto knife rattling. Sorry. But going into practice, I was like, man, unison playing has been really bad in the MSR. Yeah. I don't remember what it was, probably MSR. And so I was like, all right, screw it. This is what we're going to do. And we ended up doing something, which we ended up doing over and over again, which we ended up calling meat grinders at band practice. So this might be useful for your band, right?
Okay.
So we had 3 guys in our band, myself, Eric Olette, and Keegan. We all actually now happen to play in Inverary together, which is really fun. But we were I was pipe major, and they were my 2 pipe sergeants of Or and More. And they really knew exactly what I wanted as far as how to play something. So what we ended up doing is having like a setup where people get in a line, basically. And it would take about an hour and a half maybe to do this, maybe 2 hours. But it was a great way to spend it. So the first person in the line would come to me, and we'd play the march together. And in 10 minutes, we would have timers set for 10 minutes. And we'd go through the march, and I'd give them as many pointers as I could about the march, and just as much feedback, and get us playing as well as I possibly could in 10 minutes. And then in the next 10 minutes, they moved on to the Strathspey guy. Let's say it was Eric Olette. 10 minutes on the Strathspey guy. I got my new guy. So within 3 guys, the meat grinder was fully operational. But then you would move on to the reel. And so every person would go through the meat grinder of the 3 people. And we had our talking points that we talked on beforehand. But it was a great way to rapidly, drastically improve the unison playing in the group. The only complicated part is once you get through the meat grinder, what do you do for the next
I was just going to ask you
hour
that.
or something? So what we did at first, it was like people just sat around. Obviously, that's not going to work. So what we did is we found the remaining senior players. They would just kind of run. They would just kind of do reps on the MSR. In the meantime, with people who weren't currently in the meat grinder. But that would be an example of like changing. That's something I decided on a whim one day. It's like, you know what? Whatever we're doing to create unison is not working. Let's try this. And it worked really, really well. You do have to set aside time for it. It would be something for a weekend practice where you have like 4 hours together. Who was talking about the 6-hour practice or something on one of the recent Chanarant episodes?
Was that Reb?
Yeah, it could have been.
The 6 hours per month or something, or whatever it was, that one?
Yeah, like monthly 6-hour practices or something. But, like that's kind of sometimes what we would do is in a 6-hour practice. We'd spend 3 hours meat grinding. And then you go onto the pipes after that. And it's remarkable how much better it is having done that. And that's something that actually worked for us, right? That's like a process that actually worked and something that actually did change in the way practices were run that yielded really, really good results for the group.
Did you find that stuck to the next week when you would do that?
Yeah. It's like anything, right? Like it's going to get way better right away and then plateau a little bit. But yeah, and we did that as often as we could during peak season. You can't really do it in November because people don't know the material well enough yet, and it's just about kind of getting some reps in and talking about big picture stuff. But it was a way of cleaning the playing to make it cleaner, and boy did it work really, really well.
Shit, we gotta try that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Highly recommend meat grinding. The prerequisite is having a few people that really know how to play.
I mean,
Like the way you want.
Fusco's done a thing that he calls the meat grinder with a couple band members, but I don't think that made him better. I don't think that helped.
right.
Usually the underage ones.
I don't think that helped the playing very much. And God, our legal fees. Oof.
Well, that's the other. I guess that's the big question. And when you're at lower levels, you generally so. There's a couple things that come to mind. One, do you have enough people to do that in an efficient way? Arguably, us no, because 2 of us maybe know the music well enough. But then I also find at lower levels, maybe it's not only lower levels, but there seems to be resistance, I guess, maybe to the way the pipe major wants it. It's more likely to go down that way, where like there's a certain style, say, or whatever you want to play, or goals in mind, like unison playing and proving tone or whatever, and there's not everybody has the ability to actually replicate what, say, I want.
What's the thing the Navy SEAL people say? It's like something about crap. I can't remember it.
Does it make your bed?
No, it's like leadership is. It's not about what you ask people to do. It's about what you're willing to tolerate or something. You know?
Yeah, okay. Why do you bring that up?
Just because you can't be tolerant of people who don't want to play the same as you in a band. That's
Right.
just ridiculous.
Sure.
Shame on you, Fusco.
But there's always that battle of numbers versus, like, do you want a band of you and Josh and nobody else, or you know what I mean? Like, you probably
You mean a
maybe a little bit
brilliantly
more.
sounding and also quite handsome band?
Exactly.
Yeah, we had the problem in Ora and More, similar problem.
Yeah.
Not maybe quite as small, but we'd either have a pipe corps of 24 people,
Right.
8 of which refused to get with the program, or we'd have a pipe corps of 16 people that were really, really tight. And the years we were most successful was lean and mean.
Really?
16 guys that were actually interested in making whatever adjustments were necessary and working really hard to figure out how to get the unison,
Right, yeah.
And everybody has to be on board with that. But I digress. Clue number 8.
Let's do it. Josh, you want to take this one?
Clue number 8. This ties in perfectly to Andy hamburger grinding students. Just let me do it. That's what he says. right before. No, so a poor pipe manager, pipe major, micromanages and entrusts as little as possible to his team. They only want to be the only one in charge of maintenance, the only one moving tape, the only one in charge of tuning or touching the bag. So basically, just just a real dickhead that won't let you do anything.
Dickhead.
A dickhead. Yeah.
I'm very, very guilty of this.
I was about to say, I'm not guilty of this at all, but I know someone who is.
Yeah, no. But from, at least in the beginning, definitely from a strategic standpoint of, it takes me a lot more time to fix what you fucked up than it is for you to leave it alone. But I understand the side of that people have to learn how to do it as well. But we've also instilled, the band's got plenty of chanters. I'll give you a second one if you want to learn on that one. But the band chanter is like, don't fuck with it, essentially. and mostly it was to avoid people breaking shit or making my job harder when it came down to like a gig or whatever.
Yeah.
But then again, at this point, in the early years, I wasn't that efficient at tuning, and now I can do it so quick it doesn't. They could fuck it up, and I could put it back pretty quick at this point. So it's not as general or it's not as important. I never really told people. I mean, other than like calibrate your drone reads and make sure your maintenance is done. I'm like I say it a lot. Whether I force them to do it is more questionable, I suppose. But I say it all the time. Like, please make sure your shit's calibrated. Please don't walk in here with your drone's a mess because I'm gonna send you off to go fix it anyway. So you're just wasting your own time or whatever it is. But so I am kind of particular, very particular in the micromanagement as far as like being in the circle kind of stuff. You know?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I was big on the, like we would do, and it's different, right? A beginner band I would handle very differently than an advanced band, right?
Sure.
So a beginner band, yeah, like I think it's a sensible rule to ask people not to screw around with the tuning of their band chanter outside of band practice.
Yeah.
You know, and it's exactly like you said, get a spare chanter by all means. But by the time you're into the intermediate stages, like you kind of want people to be doing the common sense things on their own. Correct. I think,
Yeah,
you know, if your D is absolutely screaming sharp and everything else is fine, like it's common sense to like check out the tape and sure enough, like it fell off or something, you know, and to put some tape on or what have you, or call me for God's sakes, you know, like my whole high hand is wicked sharp and during my practice, what do I do? You know, to be thinking about it. And then at the advanced stages, you should have the instinct. Like Inverary is great that way, right? The vast majority of the band like is well aware of the status of your tuning and how things are going. And if any red flags are there, all the individuals are really keyed in that there's a red flag. Meanwhile, the protocol is also understood, right? You're not going to start ripping apart your tuning. Instead, you're going to consult with one of the tuning guys. Like something's fishy, what's going on? And they'll check your chanter with you and kind of help make the best decision. But that comes a bit differently. But needless to say, right? Picture a grade 1 band like Inverary where the pipe sergeant and pipe major are like helping constituents with their bagpipe maintenance. That's just not a thing, right?
Sure.
And that I think that goes all the way down, like, you know, to the beginner things. The beginners need to be in charge of doing things beginners can do, you know?
What are those things? I've yet to figure that out.
Maintenance. Well, like, I mean, maintenance and like continual improvement of those fundamentals that aren't super complicated, right?
Yeah.
Like blow steady. You know, you have to figure out how to do that on your own. And I don't know how much that applies to just let me do it, but what are some of the ones John puts in there? Yeah, it's mostly like tuning and stuff, and don't fiddle with your drone reads. You see that a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like the pipe major will calibrate the drones for the person and then be like, all right, don't touch these drone reads.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm always okay with people doing their own drone reads and their own maintenance and stuff like that because I would prefer them, one, to learn how to do it, and two, it would take me way too long to have to do it for everybody, especially during a band practice, because I'll help people, but I certainly want people to do their own maintenance and the bagpipe tree of sound, if you will. Like I put that on them to do that. Some people are scared to go through the process and figure it out or whatever, but it would be way too inefficient to try to take that on, right? You know, so I don't know.
Well, plus eventually those people are gonna be playing by themselves, right? Like they're gonna have to go do a gig at some point. So anything they can do on their own, the better.
Absolutely, yeah. Because ultimately, I want them to represent the band well when they're wearing the colors and that sort of thing, and they need to know how to do that stuff to adjust. Because we do lots of gigs where we have to send people out on their own or in groups of 2.
Or gigs where we get
Scare the hell out of
perfectly good and tuned in one area in one climate, and then have to go stand somewhere else quietly in a different climate for a long period of time, and then play. It's like you gotta anticipate. You gotta be able to roll with the punches. Back off if you have to. Like,
Well, yeah, it's just teaching people to do it the right way, so that way everything's more efficient, basically. But yeah, I don't know. I've been known to be a micromanager for sure, but it's for a reason. It's not,
I've always been one on the opposite side of that spectrum, where no matter what I was told, I would always fuck with my own shit just to learn, like what if I change this, what happens? If I adjust this, what happens?
I think that's a good thing. It's a good thing as long as, you don't screw the pooch.
I never terribly broke anything.
Or as we now call it, as long as you don't play the McCain funeral.
Yeah, as long as you don't McCain it. So, okay. Clue number 9. Andrew Douglas, I believe this is more heavy concept, so I think that you would be the appropriate one for this.
Cool. Yeah, I think this doesn't have to be a long-winded one. We're just a pipe major insisting on doing things religiously, even though what you're doing doesn't make any darn sense. See what we did there? We took the explicative out and replaced it with darn.
That's okay. I'm just going to put a bleep there, so
Yeah.
it'll sound like you said any fucking sense.
Nice. This is just reading. A poor pipe major will insist that you play a reed that's, without question, too hard for you, perhaps. That happens all the time, right?
Oh, yeah.
People with gutbuster reeds. It doesn't make any damn sense, especially not for beginners or intermediates. Maybe a harder reed is, slightly beneficial in some scenarios, but a reed that's impossible to play doesn't help anybody. Poor pipe major is also more likely to rely on weird gimmicks, like tone enhancers and newfangled reeds and moisture control systems and all that stuff, and the gimmicks don't really help, especially when the goal is just to try to figure out the easy route to a good sound. So I definitely think this can be a big thing. There's certainly a lot of bands out there with like top of the line moisture control systems that don't get a good sound. Top of the line moisture control systems in the desert that don't get a good sound.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, doesn't help you.
Especially when a hose breaks off and sticks down your chanter stock, and then suddenly you McCain it.
Is that supposedly what
That's
happened?
exactly what happened.
Oh, my
a hose
goodness.
came loose?
A hose
He was-
came loose?
He was using a what's the Ross system in the desert for God knows why.
For no
Because-
discernible reason.
Because I know that because a really high level person who doesn't play in the desert told them that everybody should have these things, and then right before he went out, the hose came off and got stuck down the thing, and that's why he was having so much trouble getting the chanter to sound, and it was squawking but also cutting out because there was so much blockage. So yeah, that's the story.
So don't do that. Long story short.
There you go. It doesn't work out. Let's do the next clue. Let's get through these because that one's self-explanatory. Clue 10.
Fusco, this is all you.
Oh boy. Ungreat expectations. A poor PM consistently has poorly run band practices. And folks show up not knowing what to expect, as these practices have no focus, no instruction, other than orders to play it better. And changes to the music are often made
extemporaneously.
I just realized that Fusco probably doesn't know
I know what it means. I can't say
extemporaneously.
it. Without keep in mind, a doctor.
Now I'm
wrote this,
gonna get some goddamn letters for us using $6 words on the Chanran podcast again.
It's gone from being boring to just insulting.
Well, if you posh piping folk don't know what the word extemporaneously means, then you can blow it out your ass.
Yeah, so sometimes, I guess to get to the meat of it, sometimes simple setting basic, what is he saying here? Sometimes simply setting basic expectations and asking people to rise to meet them can be the difference between the aforementioned and a successful season.
So, setting expectations is really important. For example, you will have your gosh darn music learned by November 14th.
Right.
Period. Suck it up. And let them know with plenty of time to get that project done. Expectation. That's a lot different than like, all right, guys, let's try to get the music learned.
And you say that every week, and let's try to get it learned for next time.
If you could show up next time and fucking know it, that'd be great.
What if that date has passed, and then you go into that mode of
What if
let's try
that-
to get it learned by next week?
What if
'Cause
that
the date has passed?
date has passed and it passed while still during the Obama presidency?
Things could be troublesome.
Then where do you go from there if you don't want to be a sucky pipe major?
So essentially, are you just saying that not being very good in communicating goals and when they, timelines and things of that nature?
Yeah. Just doing the basic stuff. And I think a lot of relationships with people can be like this, where you assume somebody knows what seems obvious to you, but they don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that can go, it's not just about memorizing music, It could also be about bagpipe maintenance. Make sure your pipes are set up well when you come to practice. Okay, what exactly does that mean? Like, a lot of people can't read your mind and don't know exactly what you mean.
Right.
And so just to be able to state the obvious, I remember one time a good friend, a member of Oran Moore, Sean McGonigal, said to me, like, bro, probably he didn't say bro, but he said, you got to give me a clue on a clue here. And I was like, what are you talking about? And basically he's expressing that to me. So I guess that makes me guilty of this at times, right? It's like, I don't know exactly what you're talking about, and you need to explain it to me so that I know. Oh. And then I'll go home and work on it and do it. Oh. Okay.
Okay.
So here's what I mean. And 3-minute explanation, and then that's what's needed to be a better leader and to help people out. Because I think you get all caught up in it, right? Like, you understand what you want, and you don't understand why other people don't get it. It's actually a big issue, I think. Mm-hmm. It's actually a big issue, especially in bands where the pipe major is ultra talented, and they just don't. The constituents just don't.
So we don't have to
saying.
worry about that then, Fusco.
No, not at all.
You guys are good.
No, I guess I've gone through periods of good and bad on this one, for sure. I'm pretty good about the expectation part. It's maybe the follow through that is more the lacking. Yeah. But I definitely assume people knew more than they know.
Yeah,
I've done that lots of times because you say it sometimes. What it is you say it so many times and you don't know who was in the room at the time, and especially at lower levels, you're constantly. Well, I suppose at all levels, you're filtering newer people into the organization all the time.
Yeah,
and you don't realize that they don't know the process.
And it needs to be built into the culture to continuously reiterate the basics.
Correct. Because
it's not a linear thing, right? It's not something that stays the same forever, and there are always going to be new people that come in. I think Canada's really good about that.
About repeating themselves.
About Canadians Canadian culture is really good about I lived there for quite a while, right? Mm-hmm. In Canada, and there are elements of Canadian culture that are really important to Canadians, and I feel really in touch with what those things are because it naturally is part of the culture to reiterate important aspects of the culture, right? And it's just kind of built in. The stereotypical one is that Canadians are super polite. Mm-hmm. Maybe a less obvious one that Canadians are particularly proud of is like the tossed salad, versus the American. Sorry, I just realized what I said there.
No, just let it ride.
The tossed salad versus the American melting pot, where multiculturalism, and people will actually, just kind of say that off the cuff, the whole tossed salad thing. They'll just keep repeating it over and over. I don't know what's up with that.
This is the first I've heard about Canadians and their ability to toss salad.
What is it? I probably don't have the right thing at all. It's probably not tossed salad at all. But anyway,
Canadians are proud of tossing salad.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah, and
I'm gonna ask Jack about this next time.
That's cool, right? That's cool, right? But
I heard somewhere that Canadians are great at tossing salad. Is that true?
He won't know what we're talking about. I'm sure of it. He won't get the.
I don't have any comment.
For those of you playing along at home, we're talking about anal cunnilingus.
But
There
yeah,
goes
just,
half the dojo members right there.
And a new rule on the Chin and Rant podcast is we ring the bell every time someone uses the term anal cunnilingus. So that's 2. You're playing along at home, time to drink.
well, I'm really sorry to all those members who just quit my website. But
Also, if you want 10% off your premium membership to Piper's Dojo, head to pipersdojo.com/analcunnilingus and get your 10% off coupon today. Get great deals on video content and also amazing lessons on the bagpipe tree of sound and how to jumpstart your solo career. That's pipersdojo.com/analcunnilingus.
oh boy, there it is. I'm going to set something up at that link and see who actually goes to it.
Track some IP addresses after that.
Yeah.
You truly are one of the 6.
You're gonna get Eric Evanhouse for sure. Is
Yeah,
going
oh yeah, he'll be all over it. Yeah, I'll just get all these Google Analytics from like Salt Lake City.
So, strangely enough, the highest search term was a URL we don't even have. It's crazy.
Yeah. Quick, put something on there.
It's all the Mormons for some reason.
Yeah, the Mormons love this. Yeah. So, trying to come back from the toss salad incident in a pipe band, like for example, just going over discussing the 4 questions every single band practice at the beginning of band practice.
4 questions.
Yeah,
Who is your daddy and what does he do? That's 2.
the 4 questions.
Forget
about
the other
maintenance.
2.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Is my bag airtight? Are my joints airtight? Are my reed seats airtight? Are my drone reeds calibrated? Just like those are the 4 questions. That's what we do as a group religiously to make sure all of our bagpipes are ready to go for practice. Mm-hmm. And just reiterating key aspects of band culture and I guess theory, that would be band theory about how to get it done. But doing that really well, I think could be super important and valuable.
Yeah.
Canadians do that well. I'm sticking to this. Forget about the whole toss salad thing. But
In addition to tossing a mean salad,
but they do that really
they
well. As far as,
reiterate
like,
these points.
here are the key aspects that make Canadian culture like special and unique, and you become really familiar with them, and it happens organically because all the constituents are probably proud of those things, but also very aware of them and they're important to them. Like most Canadians I think know what the Battle of Vimy Ridge is and why it's like important. Ask Americans what the Battle of Vimy Ridge is.
Now, and you can you can correct me if I'm mistaken, but I believe that was actually a conflict that happened in the north between Santa and the elves.
Yes.
During
creeping,
a strike.
The creeping barrage of elves. Yeah.
If I remember correctly, and then Santa won handedly via artillery strike.
Nerf artillery strike. Yeah.
Have you ever met a group of people more annoying in being proud of who they are than Canadians?
No comment.
Wait, are Canadians like super proud of being Canadian?
Oh, they are big time.
Like
They
more
never
so
shut up
than
about it.
more so than Americans?
Yeah, I don't get that here. Canadians love to tell you they're Canadian. I think maybe it's because there's an inferiority complex to us, and they always want to make sure that people know they're not Americans.
Okay,
Could be
I
that,
could see that. Yeah.
I have no idea. Andrew, what are your thoughts on this?
I have no thoughts about this.
You can always find a real living Canadian if they have less real teeth than there are notes on a bagpipe.
Listen, you've been very boring this whole episode. I'm trying to stir up some controversy
I
here.
can't do it. Like,
So we're going to war with Canada, huh?
Blame Canada.
Chanarant takes on Canada.
Those boring fucks.
Okay, so realistically, we got to get into closing thoughts here. The clues that your pipe major sucks. What have we learned? Fusco, I'm going to start with you.
I've learned absolutely nothing other than instead of melatonin, I just put on Andrew Douglas thoughts when I'm ready to go to bed at night. That's basically what I've
oh
learned.
my God. I can't even defend myself.
We're going to make him so much more self-conscious.
I feel so ashamed.
So wait a
He made
minute.
the mistake of telling us. Now we know, and now we know what.
So
to do after.
given all of the clues we've gone through that a pipe major may suck, have you experienced these in other people, or have you done these things yourself, and which ones stick out to you the most?
I've done a couple of them. Like I said, I think I kind of pointed out which ones I did. I don't think I've ever played under somebody that's done these things too much. But I've witnessed it. I've seen, I've been around bands that have had pipe majors that do this sort of thing. So no, I wouldn't say I've experienced it so much as a follower. I've never experienced none of this kind of stuff too much, but I've definitely done a couple for sure.
You toss the salad a little bit.
Toss the Canadian salad. Ground the hamburger.
Going into the meat grinder.
Hang on, I have to Google this. Canada toss salad.
That is in his search history forever.
America melting pot. The salad bowl. Okay, it does have to do with the salad.
It's a salad bowl. Is that what you're trying?
It's a salad bowl cultural idea. Suggests that the integration of the many different cultures of the United States residents combined like a salad, as opposed to the more traditional notion of a cultural melting pot.
Oh,
okay,
interesting.
So there is a salad in there some way. Yeah, the tossed salad versus the melting pot saga. Happy Canada Day.
Yes,
This is a thing. This actually came up on Google, so I'm not totally off.
No.
So what you're saying is the philosophy behind the tossed salad is that many different cultures are really all the same when their tongue's in a butthole. No one's better than anybody else in that situation.
So I'm not totally. I was really becoming nervous that I totally.
Wait a minute. More
messed it up.
importantly, of the many world-class pipe majors that you've played with, which ones were the most likely to toss a salad? Andrew Douglas, go.
Wow. No comment.
I would say Andrew Douglas was most likely.
He was the most likely
of all the bands he's
himself.
played with.
I mean, there is something about that tossed salad kind of culture, you know.
One of the clues that your pipe major really
spent
does
10
care
years-
about you is if he
I spent
tosses
10
your
years
salad.
of my life. I spent 10 years of my life in a salad tossing culture, and you know, I look back at it fondly.
Granted, it's still a great way to get double barrel pink eye. Well, I gotta say, as in my short, perfect run as a pipe major, I never did or experienced any of these things. So you guys are dicks, and I'm amazing as always.
You were pipe major on Saturday, were you not? How'd that go?
Okay, so I can describe how that gig went pretty succinctly.
Okay.
Imagine you have a SEAL team, a Navy SEAL team.
Okay.
And you're right before the operation where you have to take out a high value target. And everyone checks their weapons and everyone, preps and they go over the mission plan and we're all good. We're all on the same page, lots of eye contact, lots of affirming nods. Everything's ready to go.
Wait a minute. This sounds more like tossing salad.
Then right when the operation starts, they just start firing their guns in the air wildly, pull the pins out of their grenades, run in opposite quarters of the building, and die. It's kind of like that.
So why does that happen so often? Everything you're setting up, it looks like it's going to go the right
It's
way.
like, I think we'll be good here. Yeah, it's like it would be like the scene in a heist movie where it's like doom 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 doom, like they have like the music going, and everyone like the hacker guys on the computer like we're in, and like the guys like working on the car, it's like she's ready to go, and like the gun guys like checking the sights, like oh we're good here, and then just all of a sudden like a horse like backs up into the room and just like has explosive diarrhea over all of them, and then the building burns down, and the heist just never happens. It'd be kind of like that. That's how I would describe that gig.
Have we done? Did I already do this spiel on Chanarant? But like, imagine if you're on an airplane. I think I did that.
Did you?
Was it on this show?
Yeah.
It might have been on one of the other shows.
We'll
I did,
ask
but imagine,
Camille before we go public. Don't worry.
Yeah, imagine you're on an airplane, right? And the airplane pilot's like, "Well, guys, we're about to take off. I'm starting to feel wicked nervous. I can't I can't really remember like what I rehearsed in practice, and I'm so sorry, guys. I screwed that one up. That doesn't work, right? It only works in pipe bands, to actually just totally crap the bed and
When it counts.
and it's okay. And the other thing is it's okay in most in most bands, like, oh, we screwed that one up, guys. Like, that's okay.
I think we embodied this sentiment perfectly in last year's Celtic Thanksgiving video, where at the end we just got into the venue and I was giving Fusco like the heartfelt speech about like how happy I was to have the opportunity to play music with my friends, and he just throws up.
That's exactly it.
Like that's kind of how it is. Yeah, it's like it's kind of like talking. It's like kind of like talking to a 2-year-old. It's like, I just want you to know that I really really care about you, and I really think that this is going to work out. And meanwhile, they're looking right back at you and just shitting their pants. They're not breaking eye contact, just pooping in the pants. Or the Canadian tossing salads. But well, I gotta say, guys, we've covered a lot of ground here today. Everything from pipe major egos to bad followers to Canadians being amazing at anal cunnilingus to the Piper's Dojo discounts you can get.
This is going to get attributed to me. I just know it.
Oh,
using the search term anal cunnilingus. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see some of the comments on. So this is going to go on this article is going to go on the Piper's the Dojo University website. I'm excited to hear some of the feedback.
Yeah,
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's either going to be a lot of hate mail for Andrew being boring, or a lot of hate mail for us shitting on pipe majors, or hate mail. There's going to be a lot of hate mail.
But this does, I will say this though, anybody that's a pipe major out there right now, this does give you the opportunity to write us in, chainaran@gmail.com with your tip, the signs that someone's a shitty band member. Because I think that's coming next. That's got to be coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, we got to do that now.
It's so much work to put together one of these articles, especially in a way that's boring enough. So, So
What do you mean? You had somebody else write it.
I know. Well, I mean, and he did like a wonderful job.
And I will say this. I think for that one, that would be a great article to take to Grace No Vortex instead of us. So that in addition to losing half your membership by being on our show, we don't have to lose half our listenership by you being on our show.
It's remarkable, like. You guys just played Never Have I Ever, and it was like the coolest thing with the Grace No Vortex guys. That was the Grace No Vortex guys, right?
was,
We did, yeah, we did.
Yeah.
And then with me, like it's just
We have to talk about actual pipe band stuff, which is the listenership hates.
Nobody ever seems to like.
Did get some good poop jokes in. Any final poop jokes you want to get in there, Andrew Douglas?
No. I'm just too shell shocked from this whole experience.
Well, I want to say thank you very much for coming on the show, Mr. Andrew Douglas at the Piper's Dojo. Pleasure to hear from you, gentlemen, all the way in New York. It's God, so lonely here. So lonely here in Chain Rant Studios with just me.
Yeah, whatever. It's been all right hanging out with you guys.
That is the spirit. And Fusco, any closing thoughts before we hit a wrap on this fool?
None whatsoever. I'm excited to have done the show from the Dojo headquarters, and it's very exciting to see his giant silver cock mic.
It is. It's very
The Dojo Cave, the real life Dojo Cave. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for listening to the Chain Rant podcast. It is the world's worst bagpiping podcast, and
it's officially officially the worst of the worst.
Officially the worst, and we thank you all for having to listen. If you have any any comments on this week's episode that you want to get on next week's episode, please send us an email, chainarant@gmail.com, or a voicemail message to be played on air. And as always, go like us on the social medias, and we will catch you next week, I suppose. Fuko, I'm gonna have you play us out.
Yeah!
Is there like a way we could make this less boring? Because there's no way I'm being interested. I've been interesting on this episode.
Just-
I'm really insecure about this.
Just add 100% more dick jokes always.